All right, good morning. It is August 17th, 2023. We're going to be doing the New York Times. And today's going to be a fun one by German Lopez, a nice little propagandist. Good morning. We're covering positive economic signs and the Georgia indictment and Jay-Z. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of lies because the government lies routinely. If you don't believe that, just remember they said aliens are real now after spending 50 years saying that they're not. So they were either lying then or they're lying now. They're liars. They get caught in lies repeatedly. And we're going to be going over some of them. So here we go. This will be fun. Good, but not too good. Over the past few weeks, sentiments about the economy have gone from bleak to optimistic. Now, starting right there, 2 weeks ago, they said the economy was fine. They've been saying the economy's great and doing well. Bidenomics is doing well. They've been saying that for the last 3 years. It has always been a lie, and we're all aware of this fact. But so now they're admitting it was bleak, but now it's optimistic. No, it's still bleak. Inflation is down. No, it's not. Inflation is not down. Let's look at real inflation numbers because they just flat out lie. So this is what they broadcast right here. And so inflation is almost down to 4%. Okay. Even if that were true, we'll go with their phony numbers. Prices are still going up. They're just not going up as fast as they were last month or the month before or this giant spike right here. That's it. They're still going up. So we haven't solved the inflation crisis. Prices are still going up. Wages aren't going up. A steak that cost $6 2 years ago costs $15 today. It's not getting better. And if we were to look at the old way, so this right here, this is if we were to use the 1990-based method of inflation. And so the real inflation, according to the 90s model, would be at just under 8%. If we were to use the 80s model, it's about 13%, give or take. So no, inflation is not under control. Inflation is wildly out of control. And the next thing they're going to do is talk about jobs. So let's just go straight to the unemployment number. So if we look at their headline, sure, it looks good because they're just not counting people that stopped looking for jobs or are working toward more jobs. If we use the old data, if we were to use the original ones, it would be at about 24.7%. That's the real unemployment rate in this country. So they're lying to you when they say the economy is doing well. No, it's not. When an economy is doing well, you don't have yellow shutting down and canceling 30,000 jobs. You don't have massive bank failures in the multi-hundreds of billions of dollars. That's not the sign of a good economy. And if you remember back to 2008, they lied all the way up until the crash and said everything was great. All right, the U.S. is still adding jobs, but not so quickly that it is prompting fears of an overheating labor market, except before they admitted that increasing the interest rate is going to cool the economy, which actually means to crush jobs, which happened, and they just lied about it is all. Wages are now rising faster than prices. Yeah, right. But also not quickly enough to renew worries about higher inflation. In short, the economy is good, but not too good. No, the economy's bad and getting worse. What does it all mean for you? Prices are going up, wages are not, life's getting worse. That's what it means for us. It means good things for the top 1%. The chances of having a job-wrecking, wage-crushing recession appear lower than they have in years. No, they actually appear higher. They're lying. America's central bank, the Federal Reserve, which is a private for-profit bank and illegal under our Constitution, has been working since 2022 to cool the economy. So they admit that the labor market is overheating here. We don't want it to overheat, but we're cooling the economy. They're contradicting themselves. Yet each step the Fed took to raise the cost of borrowing money carried risks, namely going too far and causing an economic downturn, which we're in. While it's too early for the Fed to declare victory, because there is no victory, if they were to keep raising rates, it will crush everything, which is already happening anyway. And they can't go down to zero or it'll create hyperinflation. They have nowhere to go. Economists are now more optimistic that the economy will make a so-called soft landing. Prices will stabilize without a recession. Well, that's not happening. They're still going up. We're still, we would be in a recession if you didn't lie about the data. Quote, things are good. Nope. My colleague, Jenna Similak, who covers the U.S. economy, told me, quote, but I wouldn't want to overstate it. Well, you did, because you said it was good, and they're not. Everybody going to the store, If you're going to the store, you know you're paying more for groceries. You know you're paying more for gas. You know you're paying more for energy. I live in an energy efficient house this year. Last year, I lived in an energy inefficient house, a house built in the 30s, no insulation, single pane glass windows. It cost me slightly more this July to cool my house than it did an inefficient house because the cost of energy has jumped so much. If you are paying rent or a mortgage, you know that they are insanely high right now. So no. We're not having a soft landing. Things are not going well. They're lying to you. They think you're dumb. Balancing act. To understand what is happening with the economy, let's look at the Federal Reserve. It has a dual mandate to stabilize prices while keeping unemployment low. No, its really only mandate is to give money to the top 1%. That's all it does. The two goals can be at odds. Consider this scenario. If employers are rapidly adding jobs, there may not be enough workers to fill all the new positions. Knowing this, employers can entice applicants by offering higher pay. To fund those higher wages, companies might try to raise their prices. This is just one of the many ways a strong economy can lead to higher prices, also known as inflation. Another way is when you spend trillions and trillions of government money and just put it out there because it's worthless and it devalues the money of everybody else. Another way would be to send hundreds of billions of dollars to an ultra-corrupt country that we have no business to be funding a war in. That's why inflation's so high. This dynamic is why traditionally good economic news can turn into bad news during inflationary periods. America is adding a lot of jobs. No, it's not. Only part-time jobs. That may be an overheating labor market and could cause prices to rise. Wages are up. That could translate into higher prices from companies and too much demand from consumers. In other words, they're just admitting the prices are just going to keep going up. They are not coming back down. Get used to $7 for a pound of butter. The Federal Reserve's recent mission has been to make sure the economy does not become or remain too good. Yeah, because it's bad to have a good economy. By raising interest rates, it hoped to slow lending, investment, and eventually inflation. And if you slow lending and investment, that means that there will be fewer jobs. So you're openly admitting you want to kill jobs to deal with inflation, except that hasn't worked. In doing so, it also risked suppressing the economy to the point of a recession. That scenario played out in the 1980s after years of stubbornly high inflation, and many economists had feared that a repeat would be needed to bring down prices today. So far, though, the economy appears to have reached a better balance. Last month, prices were up 3.2% compared with a year before, down from a peak of 9.1% last summer. They're still going up, though, so we're still paying more, and our wages aren't going up with it. So, once again, that's not good. The unemployment rate fell to 3.5%, which is a joke, near a record low. No, it's not. And wage growth again surpassed inflation, as this chart by my colleague Ashley Wu lies. And here's the real charts. It's nowhere near what they say. They're lying. Uncertain times. Yes, they are uncertain because we're about ready to head into a massive bust. That's why Michael Burry is once again shorting the NASDAQ, because we're ready for an explosion. None of this is a guarantee of future prosperity. The economy is tremendously complex, and it often takes turns that few saw coming. Inflation is still above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%, and minutes from July's Fed meeting released yesterday suggest policymakers are determined to slow it further. Some experts are more optimistic now, but they tend to mix that outlook with caution. As Jenna said, quote, "We're just going to have to be patient," end quote. That's because you're lying. There's no good news. For more, pushed by angry members, American unions are becoming increasingly assertive. Economists who thought lowering inflation would require high unemployment should be asking themselves how their predictions turned out so wrong. They didn't. Our unemployment is 24%. You're just lying. Georgia indictment. The district attorney prosecuting Donald Trump in Georgia sought a March trial date start, but experts said that might be overly ambitious. She could have done it 2 years ago, but instead she decided to wait to interfere with the election. And RICO charges. What a joke. You have to actually have a criminal conspiracy. There was no criminal conspiracy. You have to prove there was a criminal organization. There was none. The Georgia jail where Trump will be booked in is notorious for dangerous, unsanitary conditions. Republican officials in the state fear that criticism from Trump could hurt their re-election prospects. A Texas woman has been charged over threats to the judge in the January 6th indictment. Prosecutors say she left a voice message declaring, quote, "If Trump doesn't get elected in 2024, we are coming to kill you," end quote. I wonder how many people have threatened to kill Trump on the left that didn't get prosecuted. See the many ways Trump repeatedly lied about the 2020 election, including baseless accusations of frauds. They're not baseless. They have video of people with multiple ballots. There are videos of people throwing away ballots. We have absolute proof that ballots were counted twice in Georgia and in other places. They had to be removed. Even some of the leftist sources, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I think, even they admitted, yeah, there were duplicate ballots. They were accidentally counted. It wasn't enough to affect the outcome. First, they say there's no fraud at all. Then they say, well, there was some fraud, but it wasn't enough to affect the outcome. So the people that are repeatedly lying would be the Times, because it's not baseless. You can make an argument there wasn't enough fraud to overturn the result, but it's not baseless. There's lots and lots of evidence that bad things went on during the 2020 election. Here's a guide to Trump's small army of lawyers and how much they've been paid. And remember, we're going after those lawyers, which is absolutely against the Constitution, against all legal standards and precedent. Everything we're doing here, we're throwing the kitchen sink to go after Trump. Is this really worth it? I mean, I get people on the left hate Trump and all, but are you really willing to destroy all norms just to go after the big bad orange man? He's not the devil. I mean, he's a jerk, but he's not the devil. Wildfire survivors working in Hawaii's tourism industry must balance their jobs with their desire to help victims. The death toll is at least 111. More than 1,000 people remain missing. They're probably all dead. Let's be honest here. That fire, we're now learning more and more about that. So we know that they didn't release the sirens, and now we know that they denied water to these people. They denied water to fight the fires. That's unconscionable. The official that did that should face prison time. Desperate families are writing the names of their loved ones on sticky notes. Emergency responders with help from anthropologists and dogs must sift through the ashes and debris to find human remains, which is just awful. And the devastation, just horrible. Politics. President Biden will host the leaders of Japan and South Korea at Camp David in bid to deepen alliances in a region dominated by China. A federal appeals court upheld abortion pill restrictions, but access doesn't change for now. The Supreme Court will ultimately decide. I think it's interesting because when you see the way they frame this, Vox ran stories like, yeah, they made it. They upheld the restrictions, but you can still get the pill. We can still help you do it. And they've openly admitted, like, even if they make it illegal, they're going to help people do it anyway. Like, they've openly said, we'll break the law. North Carolina became the latest state to ban access to gender transition care for minors. That's a good win because minors could not possibly make that choice. An aide to Representative George Santos to impersonate an advisor to Speaker Kevin McCarthy in fundraising emails was charged with identity theft. That guy's just great. He's hilarious. Prosecutor in Kansas ordered the return of materials seized in a raid on a small town newspaper. That's real interesting because they openly said that they didn't have sufficient evidence to establish that there was a crime. All of this raid was over a supposed identity theft because the newspaper was informed that this chick who was trying to open up a restaurant and get a liquor license had a DUI in 2008 and illegally drove on her using her license. Like, she drove without a license. So a reporter used the Kansas Department of Transportation's website to verify, or the Department of Records, to verify that this person in question did in fact have a DUI. And the paper decided not to report on it. They instead referred it to the police, who then came in and raided the newspaper, including the home of the editor where his mother, who was a 98-year-old woman, was at, and they raided the house. She died the following day, probably from the stress of being raided and having cops come in and grab everything. And for them to now admit, we don't have enough to do anything. This is chilling. Fire is heading towards Yellowknife, Canada. Officials told all the city's residents, about 20,000 people, to leave by noon tomorrow. The military takeover in Niger has upended years of counterterrorism efforts by the U.S. and France and could open the door to Russian influence. Now, so this is going to be real interesting because we kind of haven't talked about Niger too much. Like, they keep just ignoring it and saying, oh, well, the surrounding countries, they might mount a military offensive. No, they won't. Niger has a better military. And now we're going to talk about counterterrorism efforts from the U.S. and France. The Niger government does not like the French. They're pissed about what the French have been doing. And so that's interesting that we're now going to start talking about counterterrorism. Better go open up a can of democracy. A boat carrying migrants from Senegal capsized off the coast of Cape Verde with more than 60 feared dead. Many peace activists are making an exception for Ukraine's self-defense against Russia. Of course, because we want to support forever war. That war could end right now. All we have to do is say you're cut off, no more money, and Zelensky has no choice but to go and negotiate. 2 American tourists were caught sleeping in the Eiffel Tower, delaying its morning opening. What jerks. No respect. Other big stories. Drugs like Ozempic may change how society thinks about obesity, but scientists still don't know why they work. 3 people in New York City area died after contracting a bacterial infection that can spread through seawater and raw oysters. Read the story of one family in a medical and financial crisis after a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed near their Ohio home, and Biden ignored them and didn't care, flew over them, didn't care, just like he doesn't care about the people in Hawaii. Algorithms can curate our online lives. We need more options than the ones social media companies control. Yeah, that's true. The algorithms are ruining things. Forever chemicals, they lurk in so much of what we eat and drink and use. What are they doing to us? Yeah, those are plastics and aluminum and other things. And we don't really care. We're just all ingesting them. That's why Americans are so unhealthy. England beat Australia 3-1. Wow, good for them. The Dominican Republic is investigating allegations that Wander Franco had an inappropriate relationship with a minor. MLB is also conducting its own inquiry. A bat that Babe Ruth used in 1923 sold for $1.3 million. How would you even prove that? What is there? Is there some DNA from George? I don't know. On the front lines, as public fentanyl overdoses rise around the U.S., restaurant and bar workers are being trained to administer the overdose-reversing drug Narcan. Some bars view stocking the medication as a common sense, like having a first aid kit or fire extinguisher, though others worry that keeping it on hand will invite drug use. Ellen Worship, a Portland bartender who started a nonprofit that distributes Narcan, said treating overdoses should be considered part of the job. We are already put in that role where we are providing service, providing care for other people. No, I would not want to be delivering Narcan to overdose people. Like, that's not your job as a bartender. Portland is falling apart. Why are you defending this stuff? The executive director of Africa's largest art museum has built it into a world-class institution. A historic windmill that featured the 1968 movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is for sale. The Moutier Museum in Philadelphia is reconsidering its collection of medical curiosities, oddities like skulls eroded by syphilis and skeletons deformed by corsets. Combine coconut milk and dill for grilled salmon. At least it's food. It's alchemy. All right, well, that will be it.